Joe, how are you doing over there? Can you play the mandolin for a sec, Eric?
I'm going to need some piano in my mix.
We're on page 325.
Good afternoon. We're in our afternoon, our mincha service that really is switching over to being an avodah service, a chance to both recall, as we kind of walk liturgically for a moment through Jewish history, and get ourselves to the temple in Jerusalem and the role of the high priest. So we recall creation, and then we jump over to that spark place of Yerushalayim. And then we'll also move afterwards into a service of Azkarah, remembering those who gave their lives that Jewish life might thrive. We're on page 457, and the service is a little creative, a little different. Maybe you'll move a little bit. You'll see we have this whole big space for an intimate crowd and a chance just to meditate and really embrace this beautiful music. This note about creation. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. V'haaretz hayta tohu v'bohu. V'hoshech al pnei hatachom. V'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim. V'yomer Elohim yior v'yior. Middle of page 457. Let's just read that paragraph together. When God began to create heaven and earth, the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep, and a wind from God sweeping over the water, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. V'haaretz hayta tohu v'avohu. V'choshech al pnei tehom. V'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim. V'yomer Elohim yehi or v'yehi or.
has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, even softly, praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. Morning has broken like the first morning, blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the world.
The Holy created a planet of wonder, a universe of radical amazement. We found the Holy in different ways as we went through nature. But even as Bnei Yisrael wandered in the wilderness, in that place of profound beauty, they felt the need to build a structure where they could gather and be in Kedusha. That something would be different when you entered that space. And the notion of sanctuary is born. Moses builds that first holy place out in the wilderness. He takes his shoes off at Sinai, at the mountain. But there, down below, when he builds the altar, he builds a place of wonder, and everyone brings their gifts to make it reflect their beauty. And that is the prototype that then moves us to Jerusalem, where David first finds a place to unite the Jewish people, and where Solomon builds the first temple, and then the second temple on that same spot. And there in that place, our people would gather. We'd all come up and want to be in that space. Nature's all around, but want to be in a place that we make that are beautiful and significant, and where our spirits can soar as community. Well, that's what they built for the people Israel in Jerusalem. The high priest would go there with the whole Jewish community surrounding the building. And they'd be in that place in Jerusalem near the temple. When humans build a house, they make it with windows that are narrow on the outside and broad within, so that the light may enter from the outside and illuminate the interior. King Solomon, however, who built the temple, didn't do that, but made windows that were narrow on the inside and broad on the outside, so the light might go forth from the temple and shine outside. Each Yom Kippur, the high priest would go into the Holy of Holies and prepare to make the confession, the vidui, and express the hope of the Jewish people for renewal. We're on page 470. Within the Holy of Holies, The high priest spoke words of confession, first for himself and his family, then for the priests who served at his side, and finally for the whole community. His hands on the head of a bull, he confessed all their sins and his own. Nothing was concealed in his heart. Quietly he spoke the 4 letters that form God's name, quietly so no one would hear. For that holiest name, how to say it, was known only to him. Clear and pure were the high priest's confessions, a ladder for the soul seeking atonement. And then he would reach for those words that unite us, that we all know, for the Shema.
So, one of the things that Rabbi Jonathan just said that always strikes me is that we just don't know God's name. We have so many different names for God. Because of that, we ascribe so many different attributes. And just like we don't really know God's name, as a musician, I sort of feel like that's also why there's an infinite number of melodies. The Shema, right? That melody that we know so well for the Shema. I don't want to disappoint anybody, but it was written in the 19th century. It's not as old as Judaism. It's weird for me to even fathom that there were Jewish people not singing the Shema in that way, right? But when we think of ourselves on a trajectory that goes thousands of years, we imagine the high priest in the temple. I don't know what it was being sung like. So this afternoon, I'm going to share a melody with you that was sung to me by a young camp counselor at Olansang River Union Institute of Reformed Judaism named Ariel Solomon. And when Ariel shared this melody of Shema with me and everybody else in the room, I know my partner Rachel was there too, we were swept away. And all summer, that's all anybody wanted to sing was that melody. So we're going to start like this. And now you're all going to sing that with me. Connecting with the one, the high priest would then do the vidui, the confession. Even the high priest had what to ask forgiveness for, to work on teshuvah. And so let's say the interpretive prayer on page 471 together. God, I plead before you. We have sinned. We have done wrong. We have rebelled against you. My family and I, the community of priests, and the whole house of Israel. I beseech you by your name, grant atonement for the sins, the wrongs, acts of rebellion that we have committed against you, my family and I, the community of priests, and the whole house of Israel. As it is written in the Torah of your servant Moses, For on this day atonement shall be made for you, to purify you all your wrongs, and pure you shall be in the presence of the Eternal. As the high priest pronounced the name of God, the people bowed and knelt and touched their heads to the ground, saying, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
And as we turn to page 416, we're sharing a little bit about different melodies this afternoon. Max Janowski. Max Janowski is the person who brought us the melody.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu.
And I spoke earlier about how one can't fathom Judaism before certain melodies. That one definitely applies for me. What Janowski was able to do, both in pulpits in Milwaukee and very historical pulpit in Chicago, was bring this ancient, almost terrifying at times, text from these holidays and allow them to speak to us. In his case, in the 1960s. And we will rise together as we contemplate Janowski's setting.
Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu ve'Imotenu Tavo lefanecha tefilatenu ve'al titalon mitchinatenu she'anachnu hazefanim u'kshe'oref lomar lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu tzadikim anachnu ve'lo echatanu Ava anachnu chatanu Shamanu Vagadanu Gazanu Diparnu Dolfi Ay 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 והרשנו, צעדנו, חמסנו, טפלנו שקט, איי 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 יצנו רע, כיזבנו, לצנו, מרדנו, ניאצנו, שררנו, אבינו, פשענו, שררנו, קישינו עורף, איי 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 רשענו, שיחתנו, תיעבנו, תהינו, תיתנו, איי 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 איי
Take a deep breath, everyone. We can be seated. At that point at the temple, they are getting ready to make that transition out of working deep, deep, hard in vidui, but also getting towards hope that we can change, that we can be different. So we're on page 474, and let's be in that place for a moment. Read with me the English, please. Your dwellings, my God, are places of love. And nearness is clear as things seen, not guessed of. My dream took me to your temple's mount to sing, in all its lovely worshiping and bring my offerings with their libations. Around me swirled thick smoke and ministrations, sweet to my ears of Levites at their stations. I woke, but I did still, you were there, for to me to thank you as befits my prayer.
Page 457.
Soon we come to Yizkor, where we honor the memory of our loved ones. But the liturgy has us at this point, after remembering the temple, then acknowledging the exile and the pain of the exile, and Zocher, remembering those who were martyred for our people. It's not thinking about our loved ones in particular, but the general experience of the Jewish people after this, and always holding on to the hope that we get to the place that we're in today. A little bit what I addressed in my sermon on Rosh Hashanah, that we are privileged to live in this time where there is a home for the Jewish people, and where we're safe in this country as well. But we have to remember the journey along the way. So we're in the Azkarah section of our service now on page 518. These I remember, the ones whose lives were shaped by a mitzvah. You must not remain indifferent. The ones who lost their lives through devotion to a mitzvah. Tzedek, justice shall you pursue. The ones who embodied through deed and dedication a mitzvah, ubacharta b'chaim, choose life. And these I remember, the ones who mended the broken, brought healing to the wounded, fought back despair with the solace of faith. The ones who breathed life into a prayer, the Tiken Olam b'malchut Shaddai, to establish in the world the sovereignty of a high and noble purpose. I remember these artists of the soul, architects of redemption, the activists and advocates of justice and beauty, exemplars of Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. But in bringing the repair, they themselves made the ultimate sacrifice. On this holy day, we remember.
Rabbi Akiva said, "You should be happy, O Israel. In front of whom do you purify yourselves? And who purifies you? God in heaven."
אשריכם, אשריכם ישראל, אמר רבי עקיבא, אמר רבי עקיבא, אמר רבי עקיבא, אשריכם, אשריכם ישראל, אמר רבי עקיבא. לפני אתם מתהרים, ומי מדהר אתכם, אביכם שבשמיים, אביכם שבשמיים, אמר רבי עקיבא. לפני אתם מתהרים, ומי מדהר אתכם, אביכם שבשמיים, אביכם שבשמיים, אמר רבי עקיבא, אמר רבי עקיבא. אתם מתהרים אני מדהר אתכם אביכם שבשמיים אביכם שבשמיים אמר רבי עקיבא אמר רבי עקיבא
Rabbi Akiva, he was the one who said these teachings. But he was also the one who refused to listen to the Roman command to stop practicing Judaism. And so he was captured by the Romans, and he was put to death. And as he was dying, he said the words of Shema and the Ve'ahavta. And his students, according to the Midrash, say, Rabbi, even now you say the Shema? And he said, all my life I wondered, what does it mean to give your whole self to belief in the one? Shema Israel, I am one.
Amar Rabbi Akiva Amar Rabbi Akiva Amar Rabbi Akiva.
After the Roman conquest, our ancestors left and went through other parts of the world. And some of us ended up in Spain. In Spain, there was a time of flourishing, a golden age, so to speak. But then that competition between Islam and Christianity, and Jews stuck in the middle. When Ferdinand and Isabella eventually complete the Reconquista, they look at the Jews and they have this idea of a unilateral state with only one monopoly of religion, of Christianity. And we're forced to either convert or what, everyone? Or leave and be expelled. And we go throughout different parts of the world into the Islamic world and deeper into Europe. But that movement forced immigration. It's a moment of pain and destruction and people struggling to find how will we rebuild. Think of family separation, all that's going on today and happening as well in our history. This is from a sage, Don Isaac Abarbanel, a poem about his experience. Time with his pointed shafts has hit my heart and split my gut and laid open my being. Landed me a blow that will not heal, knocked me down, left me in lasting pain. No, time did not stop whirling around me, exiling me while my days were yet green, sending me stumbling, drunk to roam the world, spinning me dizzy around about its edge. So I've spent 2 decades on the move without my horses ever catching breath, so that my palms have measured oceans, weighed the dust of continents, so that my spring is spent. No, that was not enough. He chased my friends from me, exiled my age mates, sent my family far so that I never saw a face I know. Father, mother, brothers, or friend. He scattered everyone I care for northward, eastward, or to the west, so that I have no rest from constant thinking, planning, and never a moment's peace for all my plans. Now that I see my future is in the east, their separation clutches at my heels. My foot is turned to go, but my heart's at sea. I can't tell forward from behind.
We take a moment to recognize the space for teshuvah on Yom Kippur and every day. And we recognize that the Spanish and Portuguese governments in recent years have actually opened up a process for Jewish people who can prove their lineage to Spain or Portugal to actually become full citizens. We are grateful for their teshuvah. We recognize that it has been 500 years but nevertheless, we do appreciate that gesture. We will listen to a melody, a setting of Oseh Shalom that comes from the Spanish-Portuguese Jewish rite, Minhag. And I also want to point out that we have members of this congregation who are both the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the former conductor of the Spanish-Portuguese synagogue in Manhattan, which is one of the oldest synagogues in the United States. And we will listen to a setting of Oseh Shalom, prayer for peace.
Shalom bimroma uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru
And then in our own time, our own day, there is the Shoah. That essential suffering and attempt to destroy our entire people. And yet we stood up against the activities of the Nazis. Many of us in this congregation, your grandparents fought in World War II in the American Armed Forces. They fought with the partisans in Europe. They fought to establish a home in Eretz Yisrael. And among them was Hannah Senesh. And we remember her for her work, her writing, her courage. But we also want to remember her as a partisan, that she left the safety of the land of Israel and she parachuted back into her native Hungary to try to warn the people of the nefarious works of the Nazis. And it's there that she's captured. We're on page 527. We honor her as a symbol of all the partisans who fought, some miraculously lived, but who helped us to live. 5 years later, having trained as a paratrooper, Senesh was one of 37 Jews who parachuted behind German lines in an attempt to rescue Hungarian Jewry destined for Auschwitz. During her 3 months in Europe, with partisan resistant fighters, she wrote the prayerful poem, "Blessed is the Match." It was her last. Captured and tortured, having refused a blindfold, Hannah Senesh was executed by the Nazis' firing squad in 1944 at the age of 23. She's buried in a special section of the military cemetery in Mount Herzl in Jerusalem, where the gravestones there are arranged in the shape of a parachute.
There is a custom with the song that we're about to sing. The song we're going to sing is the hymn of a partisan. And for those Jewish people who actively resisted the Nazis, hiding in forests, banding together, literally acting out acts of guerrilla warfare. When this song is sung, for those who are still alive, they always stand up. They always stand up. And I would just like to request, if it's okay, that in honor of all of those brave people who had to endure circumstances that I cannot even fathom, and I hope I never will have to, and I hope my children never will have to. But in honor of them, I'd like to ask us to stand.
not say that you now walk the final way, because the dark in heavens hide the blue of day. The time we've longed for will at last draw near, and our steps as drums will sound that we are here. From land all green with palms to land all white with snow, we now arrive with all our pain and all our woe. Where our blood came out and sprayed across the land, there our courage and our faith will rise and stand. Where our blood spread out and came across the land, there our courage and our faith will rise and stand. Niet kein Moloss du geiten letzten Weg, wenn Himmel bleiben verstillen bläue Tag, weil Kuben noch schon gehören weg der Show. Es wird abbeugt von unser Trott mir Seiten da, von grünen Palmenland bis weißen Land wie Schnee. Wir seinem da mit unser Pein, mit unser Weh, und wo gefallen sich das Spritz von unser Blut. Wird das sprotzt und unser Vogel, unser Blut. Und wo gefallen sich das Spritz von unser Blut. Wird das sprotzt in unser Vogel, unser Blut.
But we're blessed to live in the time where the state of Israel does exist and it does thrive. But Yom Kippur is always also the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. And we take a moment to think of the fallen soldiers who stood up for Jewish life in Eretz Yisrael. And there's a song that was developed after the war at a kibbutz, Beit HaShita, where they had lost 11 members of the kibbutz in the war, which is like a whole generation of the kibbutz. And they weren't connected religiously. And a famous writer, Yair Rosenblum, spent some time there. And while he was there, he wrote an Unatan Tokef, that he wanted to connect their sense of loss to Jewish tradition and mourning, and then back into hope. And it became a hugely popular expression of this prayer. We're on page 208.
Unetane Tokef Kedusha et Hayom, Ihu Nora Vayom, Uivoti Nase Malchutecha, Ve'yikon ve'chesed kisecha, L'teshev alav be'yemet, V'teshev alav be'yemet. V'shofar gadol yitakah, וקודמה מדכה ישמע, ומלאכים יחפזו, וחילו רעדו יוחזו, ומלאכים יחפזו, וחילו רעדו יוחזו. ושופר גדול ייתקע, וקודמה מדכה ישמע, ומלאכים יחפזו, וכאילו רעדו יוחזו.
So Azkarah, we remember. We travel through time from being in Jerusalem, being in creation really, and then Jerusalem with the high priest in the temple. through Rabbi Akiva and experience as diaspora, but always holding on to tikva, to hope. I don't know if any of you were at the panel earlier for the social justice discussion that we had. And the idea of, in times of challenge, holding on to hope, where we are a people of hope who's always believed that we can join with the holy and with each other and rebuild the world and bring that tikkun. And we've been blessed to be able to live it in a time like this where we can experience that and where Jewish life is thriving and where our voice is needed to be an or lagoyim, to be a light to the nations, to bring a new light, connect our light with the beautiful light of others to build that better world. Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir. Let a new light shine upon Zion and upon all of us. Page 180. As we get ready to close this service for the last song, Yisker will be in the room at 5:30. And then, what are you supposed to do after Ne'ilah? What's the next thing you do after everything's done and you've had a little break the fast? You start to build your sukkah, right? You start to build and embrace being in life and hope. Well, on page 325, we're going to sing the song Gesher Tzar Ma'od. And it was written by Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, the words. And Rabbi Nachman also taught that you have to have joy in your life. He said, not as a part-time thing, But as you pursue tzedek, also pursue joy. See the time that you have as a gift from the holy. And don't make yourself a memorial to sadness, but the light of hope is in you. So we transition to joy and that idea of the bridge from one place to the next. Good Yantiv, everyone. We hope we'll stay for Yizkor and Ne'ilah. And I think there's a little break the fast in the courtyard in Havdalah. Is that right?
Yes.
Speaking of bridges, we're looking forward to that. Good Yantiv. The service is 5:30.